Welcome to Dear Book Coach. I'm Carrie Savage, writer, certified book coach, and project manager.
I'm Stephanie Detlefs, writer and certified book coach.
I'm Terry Thayer, writer, certified book coach, certified focusing professional.
This is a friendly advice space as you plan, draft, and revise your novel. In each video, we answer one question submitted by a writer like you with 3 different points of view, and you get to pick the advice that resonates with you. So today's question is from Leah. I've gotten some feedback that I have too many characters in my novel. How many is too many, and how do I know if I've crossed the line? Stephanie, would you like to start off?
Yeah, sorry, I had muted myself accidentally. So, Leah, first, I think it's important to ask yourself whose story this story is. Who is the main protagonist? The answer to this is only one person. Even if you have multiple points of view, which I do in my current work in progress, and I love a book with multiple points of view, you still need to know the one person who maybe changes the most over the course of the story or who is most impacted by the story. Their emotional journey is going to drive the story. Once you know who that person is, you can check in with all of the other characters and ask some questions. Are they helping drive that protagonist story forward in some way? Because if they're not, then they're just standing there on the sidelines, and they probably don't need to be there, or maybe don't need to be named. It's possible that you're naming characters that don't need to be named. In my work in progress, I am writing a middle grade novel, and I refer to the popular group and the kids who are involved in the play, but I don't name all of them because it's unnecessary. The key players, the ones who actually help drive the protagonist's story forward, they get names, but the rest of them don't need that. And it's possible that you can merge them into just a group that you can name, or even blend 2 or 3 characters together into one person so that you don't have quite so many. The problem with having too many characters, which I do think is subjective, one person might think there's too many where another person might think it's fine, but a reason why that is problematic to have too many is that the reader has to keep track of who is who's coming and going. That's a personal pet peeve of mine as a reader. I really dislike it when I have to stop myself reading and ask, wait, who is this person? Where did I meet them before? So that's what you want to be careful of. You want to be considerate to your readers. So there are some ways that you can merge characters together to have them be a little more condensed, the number be a little smaller, and also where maybe you just don't need to name everybody that you're naming, and maybe they don't need to be there. So ask yourself those questions once you know who the main person is, and probably the secondary layer, are the rest of them necessary? So that's what I have to say. Terry, what do you want to say? I know you have some thoughts here.
We have thoughts because we've just discussing a book with a lot of characters, and Stephanie didn't mind at all, and I hated it. But as you were saying that thing of who is this character, I'm also thinking, and why do I care?
Yeah.
I have put down several best-selling books in the last few weeks because there were so many characters that I just didn't care what happened to them by the end. I don't have the bandwidth to keep track of that many. So like Stephanie's saying, you don't want to make your audience work too hard to keep track. I've had people in book club tell me, well, I wrote out a taxonomy in the beginning of the book to figure out who was who. And I like, that's too much. And in historical fiction, I love a good family tree, but if your readers are telling you have too many characters, you probably do. And, we're always talking about this, but you have to make sure every character is serving a purpose. And that purpose is designed by you, the author, not the characters. So, a little tough love might be involved. Favorite teacher of mine, Donald Moss, suggests solving this problem by merging characters into one. So the brother-in-law is also the dentist who's torturing your protagonist, and his wife is the best friend. So, just see if your characters can do double duty. if they're serving a particular purpose in your book, can they also serve another purpose? Can they also, be a sidekick and be a sounding board or be a thorn in someone's side? Can the kind neighbor also be the PTA president? The thing, if you do this, you're also creating more nodes of connection for your main character to play off and react to. So it's a much bigger, if the dentist is also your brother-in-law, it's fraught, right? There's a lot more tension there and there's a lot more problems there. So all those nodes of connection that give your character history and places to bump up against. His life gets more complicated if the mailman who's really bad at his job is also the next door neighbor. So complicate those relationships by intertwining them. That's what will give you the depth of character that you might be missing right now. So here's a sports metaphor from someone who doesn't know much about sports, but like a baseball bench, you want your cast of characters to be deep rather than numerous. You want guys that can run the bases and hit the ball. So let your characters have a dual or triple role if you dare, and you will automatically create deeper stories. Carrie.
Those are all excellent points, and I'm going to try not to repeat everything that you guys have just said because I agree with everything. But I think one thing that you'll notice that Stephanie and Terry didn't do, and I can't do it either, is none of us will give you a hard and fast rule about how many is too many. I mean, there is no, number, say 50 or no more. It really depends on the story that you're telling. So yeah, you sort of have to gauge that for yourself. But I also say I wouldn't worry so much about this piece of feedback while you're drafting. It seems sometimes in my experience that writers will name characters because it helps them cement the character's identity and the role that they play. So you as the writer might need that person to have a name so you become aware of them and figure out their role in the plot. And if this is something that you do as you're drafting, especially in your first draft, please continue. The last thing you should be worried about is keeping some sort of tally and being concerned about it while you're still in the early stages of getting your thoughts onto the page. Do whatever is going to work for you. That said, if you do have a tendency to name every person who shows up in your narrative, that's almost certainly overkill. And you can get definite senses of that from what Terry and Stephanie have both said. A name signals to the reader that the character is important, that they have a purpose, that their interactions and thoughts and decisions are worthy of attention. So if, as Stephanie says, they're not driving the plot forward in some way, you're going to lose trust with your readers because you haven't met their expectations. They're starting to wonder, well, why do I need to keep this person, in my brain and give them some sort of context when there doesn't seem to be any reason that I'm getting? For example, if there's a next door neighbor who provides emotional guidance and support to your protagonist throughout the novel, they almost certainly deserve a name because presumably they're coming up again and again and helping your protagonist process what's going on around them. On the other hand, a receptionist whose only appearance is to greet your protagonist when she enters an office almost certainly does not need a name. So that's a way that you can sort of gauge it. Especially if you've been told that there are too many named characters in your novel, it's probably worth doing a specific pass in your revision stage to assess the situation and make sure that everyone is earning their named status. Should anyone be demoted or even axed? Can you combine characters, as Terry suggested, into one strong dynamic character? Be merciless. And I just wanted to end on the note that one of the women in my writing group is affectionately known as the murderer because she is so ruthless on this point. She does it in her own work, so she certainly practices what she preaches, but she is not afraid to encourage any of us whose work we're reviewing to just get rid of that person. You don't need them. So she's a great inspiration to me, and I would pass that inspiration on to you.
Yeah, it kind of goes along with the maxim of killing your darlings, right? Killing your characters. Like, don't be afraid to do it if it has to happen. And if you really are in love with them, you could always just take them the way you would take a little story snippet and put it in a file and keep them. Maybe they have their own story to tell. You don't have to never see them again. I was just reminded too of the rule of three, which, you know, we're here at Dear Book Coach, we're not about hard and fast rules. We're about do what works best for you as the writer. But the rule of three is the idea that if a person, or it's usually a person, if a person appears in a story, they need to appear at least 3 times. And so, because they need to have some sort of trajectory too, otherwise they have no reason to be there. And so that's something to consider. Again, 3 is not hard and fast. It's just be thinking about how much we're seeing them. If we're just seeing them one time, they don't need a name. They can just be the attendant at the gas station, you know, doesn't need to be Joe, the attendant. So yeah, things to think about. And I love how in our videos, I say things and then, well, I'm not always first, but I have ideas about what to say. And then I listen to you too. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, that was such a good idea, you know, such a good point, such a good way of thinking about it. So I always learn something too. All right, that is it for us today. We hope you found an answer that makes sense to you at this point in your life and at this point in your book. Remember, you can submit your question at any time to us at dearbookcoach.com. And excuse me, while you're there, subscribe to our weekly email and be eligible monthly to win a call with a coach for free. Also, during the month of September, we'll be doing Instagram Lives once a week, talking about our mentor, Jenny Nash's book, Blueprint for a Book, which has just come out. So be sure to follow us on Instagram to catch those, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.